actually really says about women. And if you read your Bible rightly, women are given a place of great honor. And so whoever accepts, Jesus did things like when he went to talk to the woman at the well in Samaria. To us, like, oh, he talked to a woman at a well. But in those days, there was a reason the disciples were like, what? You want to do what? You want to go to Samaria? And you want to talk to a woman? They were totally freaked out by that because you just didn't do that in those days. Why? Because throughout the world's history, women were treated as property of the husband. Aristotle said that a woman was somewhere between a free man and a slave. In India, for centuries, widows were voluntarily or involuntarily burned on their husband's funeral fire. When her husband died, can you imagine being a wife and your husband has a heart attack and he dies and like, yeah, sorry, he died, and so you will too now because your husband you're only as valuable as your husband being alive. So they would burn the woman with the husband, even if she wasn't dead. This is the way the world handled stuff in those days. It was when the missionaries came to India and said, man, you got to get rid of that nonsense, century-old practices and ideas, that when Jesus came, it changed all these crazy, evil practices against women. What about children? A lot of people don't know this about the Roman Empire because it's part you didn't read about in high school. But children in the ancient world, children were also treated horribly. If you survived as a child in ancient Rome, congratulations, because that didn't happen very often. Killing a Roman was called murder, but it was commonly held in Rome that killing one's own children could be an act of great beauty. That's the way they wrote about it. If you killed your children, it would be an act of beauty. Through a higher view of life, it was the early Christian church that would ultimately bring an end to infanticide there in Rome of the killing of the children. Slavery, it's true. You can, as your college professors, pipe puffer, cardigan, shirt wearing, whatever, they'll say slavery, Christians own slaves, and they love to bring that out. And while it is true that there were so-called committed Christians that were holding slaves, owned slaves in history, it's also true that slavery was ended by great measure by Christian activists. For example, historians credit the British evangelical William Wilberforce with ending international slave trade. It was a Christian evangelical who said he was the primary force behind ending slave trade. And that happened, by the way, before the American Civil War. 2/3 of the members of the American Abolition Society in 1835 were Christian ministers, pastors of Christian churches. That's who did that.